You're listening to The Burning Truth. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, dude and dudettes. I am Matt Burns, and with me is none other than JB, my partner in crime, John Below.
Good evening, or good morning, or I suppose I should have just said hello, really.
Better yet, you can probably borrow a bit off Truman Show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Depending on what time of
Morning,
day
good
you listen to it.
afternoon, and in case I don't see you, good evening and good night is, I believe, the correct quote.
I know it's only three. I think it is. I think it's good morning, good evening, and good night. I think it was. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Anyway,
Let's just get off the bat straight away. Before we continue any further, the original topic for this week's episode has dramatically changed due to certain events this week. We originally were going to be discussing. We were going to be talking about, could history be repeating itself as such due to a certain, well, it's no longer, I wouldn't say recent debut anymore. Would you agree?
I don't think you'd say recent anymore, no.
No. It's due to a certain, when someone debuted, and currently at the moment, it seemed like history could potentially repeat itself. It was just a certain thought, a certain point of view. We were going to have a bit of a topic about it. I'll just mention what it's in regards to. We were going to be talking about when
Carrying
Cross, formerly known as Killer Cross, debuted with a Scarlet.
Yes.
And certain similarities it could be having
people who it could have been in the past, and
potentially, and seeing if history might repeat itself or if they'll go into a different direction.
Yeah,
that was the original topic that we were going to be discussing this week. However, when we're pushing that aside, and yes, it was meant to be the previous week as well.
Yeah, we'll get to it. It'll probably unless something else completely unexpected sideswipes us, as happened this week. We'll tentatively say we'll try and talk about it next week, but don't hold us to it.
All I will say is we're going to just go through our usual disclaimer. It may sound a little bit different.
Oh, why are you doing it?
Yes.
Okay, fire away.
The following broadcast is going to have some potential adult language and certain topics that may be unsuitable for younger listeners and people who may have a certain may not like these certain topics that we're going to be discussing potentially. However, some of the topics that we are going to be discussing, we do want to be heard as much as possible. Yes. So we do advise you to ignore some of the bad points, potential, the bad language, but hopefully the positive message does come through.
Yeah, I think I should add, basically at this point, we are going to try our best to bring something positive out of what has been a very trying week.
Correct.
Because Lord knows when we tell you why, for those that maybe don't know already, you'll understand why we need to... Well, the bare facts of the news is anything but positive, so you'll understand why we need to try and highlight the positives of a situation that you may not think has any. But trust us, we'll do our best.
And do you want to add on the extra bit that you normally add in every week? Your one per list?
hang on, I'm just ticking it off. Not that one. He's not on. Oh, you mean about the strobe lighting effects? Yeah, there may be some of them.
Bit different, but yeah. But we just thought we'd just get that covered. Now, this episode is going to be a little bit different from usual from time to time. It's going to be very... As much as we have put the disclaimer out, a certain language may be unsuitable, you'll see why it may be unsuitable a bit later. But
yeah, I was going to say the other disclaimer needs to be, of course, if you are in any way affected by anything that you hear over the course of this show,
right,
you're not alone. Hold on. No, I'm looking something up. Basically, if you're in any way affected by any of the issues raised over the course of this broadcast, then you can go to samaritans.org. I was looking up the phone number, but I couldn't find it. And there are many other places you can call or visit online that will help you if you feel that you need it in light of what we say on today's show. You know, that was much less wordy in my head, but basically, we're going to be covering difficult topics, but there is help out there if they are topics which directly affect you, so do not despair.
Correct. I believe you can... the number that you can potentially call free on any phone, I believe the number in the UK is 116123.
Yes.
And you can also write an email, which I believe is to Joe which is jo@samaritans.org.
Yes.
Now, I'm just having to double check and just making sure I have got the right website.
Samaritans.org, and the number was 116123, and that is available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Just bear in mind, however much you think there's no one who can help, there's always someone that can.
And don't ever be afraid to ask for help, because asking for help isn't a weakness, as we've said every week. We thought we'd just push this message out more importantly because of a bit of the topic that we've got to cover this week.
Yes, because sadly, part of the reason we've got to cover this news is because someone didn't ask for help and, well, the results were tragic.
In other words, I
think we should just...
don't suffer in silence.
Yeah,
that's what we're going to put it down to. Right now, we're going to get onto the main topic of discussion. Instead, we're going to try and put a bit of a lighter spin on it. It's this episode, instead of the usual topic as such, is going to be a tribute to two people.
A tribute to the lives of two people who sadly are no longer with us.
Correct. Which I'm just getting all the details, just double checking details up at the same
As am
time.
I, yeah. In one case, the loss was heroic, if the details are to be believed, and also deeply, deeply tragic. And in the other case, just tragic.
It's unfortunate what has actually happened on both cases. We're not stating, regardless of just because one is heroic, it's more meaning.
Oh, absolutely not. No, we're not. We're not elevating one above the other. They're both tragic events. It is simply that the circumstances surrounding them. You'll understand when we explain.
Yeah. Now we're going to name them both, which is Shad Gaspard,
former WWE superstar and one half of the tag team Crime Time,
who unfortunately passed away at the age of 39.
Yeah.
And Hana, who tragically passed away at the age of 22.
Who was a Japanese professional wrestler and star of the Japanese Netflix show Terrace House.
Yes, and I believe it's also it was on Netflix as well.
I did say Netflix, sorry, yeah. It was also in Japan, broadcast on Fuji Television as well, but it was a Netflix original.
Now, at this moment in time, for anybody who does jump in during this, what we're going to do right now, I do apologise in advance if there is any distortion.
Or indeed any background noise.
Correct.
Trust us, it's not intended.
It is not intended. At this moment in time, we are going to do a 5-bell salute.
Followed by a minute's silence.
So please bear with us while we get this done for you. Thank you very much for joining us on that minute silence.
Was a minute's silence in tribute to the lives of Hana, Kimura and Shad Gaspard, who we should always remember.
Definitely. Now, in case you're wondering, is that going to be it for this episode? It isn't, because
no,
we're going to do a bit of discussion in regards to what had happened.
And in regards to mental health, which is, as we already stated, important and something that, well,
yeah,
we both have experience of the positive and the negative sides of.
Yeah, it's not, we're not experts though, far from it, but we hopefully know that we can put you in the right direction to potentially the right people at the very least, to possibly help you out. Be it either the Samaritans or Changes UK,
or
Mind, Message for Mind, in all of them charities as such. But anyway, we'll discuss Shad Gaspard first.
Yes, because his was the one that happened first.
Yeah.
I think for no other reason, really. Not attaching any importance or trying to make it seem like one is more important than the other. It's simply that we found out the tragic news about Shad Gaspard first.
Yeah. And the scary thing about it was a lot of people have been discussing about this. I believe we've even had Undertaker's take on it, who is unbelievably shocked and very respectful of Shad Gaspard.
Yes.
And in case anybody wants to know what had actually happened, basically Shad Gaspard was spending time at the beach with his family and was out in the waters with his son.
Yes, his 10-year-old son.
Going for a swim, and unfortunately, yes, as much as you can turn around and say, did they go too far? Each their own, depends, but it's a rare occurrence that basically happened.
Yeah, it was a tragic accident, essentially.
It's what had happened. Basically, the sea developed a bit of a small riptide,
Yeah.
and in doing so, basically, the the force of the sea is very massively unpredictable,
Oh, yeah,
and
and way more powerful than people give it credit for.
oh, definitely, definitely. But from what has been looked up in research, the number of times that this usually happens a year is very, very small. Usually,
So it was just really, really fundamentally bad timing and a really tragic accident.
it was, and what ended up happening is both Shad and his son ended up being caught in it. Now, luckily enough, the rescuers came on.
There were lifeguards on the scene.
Lifeguards on the scene who quickly came to the rescue.
Who quickly came to get the aid of both of them, and if the reports are true, that
it does seem to be true from what is being accounted for from the lifeguards and potential witnesses, many witnesses as well.
Yeah, if these reports are true, that he basically instructed the lifeguards to save his son first, worry about him later.
Yeah, instead of trying to rescue them both, focus on his son first.
Then that is
from what is gathered, it took, I believe, 2 lifeguards to help rescue his son.
Yeah.
At the minimum, from what has been discussed potentially. And as they went to return back for Shad, unfortunately, he didn't resurface back where he was. And a search went on throughout multiple days,
until
to locate him. But they did have to. The lifeguards and rescue did have to stop after a while. However, there were other personal people looking out for him, and one of them being a fellow stand-up human being, but with and I'm not saying this because they're a wrestler as well. That's just he's just a nice person.
Go on.
Chris Masters was still searching, continued the search on with other colleagues and other people and members of Shad Gaspard's family at the same time. But at the same time,
on the basis that you never ever want to give up until you've actually heard the bad news, and that is to be commended.
Correct. And the scary thing about it is when the Coast Guard potentially, or when they called off the search and basically personal family and friends are still looking, it seemed like hope is diminishing. Unfortunately, hope basically decided to completely dissipate when a body was found. Eventually, I believe it was after 3 days.
Washed up on the beach after 3 days and was identified a short time later, sadly,
as Shad Gaspard.
Yes. Which is a tragic end to the story.
But it's not just the end of the story, though.
Well, it's a tragic end to his story, and it is a life ended far too soon. But no, that's not the end of the story. I agree there.
It's not the end of the story. People have been coming out. JTG has come out stating the last time he had a message off him, it was basically saying that if he doesn't hear from him, regardless, he loves him and everything, showing how nice a guy he was. And the scary thing about it is, in a way, as much as a lot of people can say Shad Gaspard was absolutely heroic for his son, no doubt about it. That's not the only time he's been heroic.
That's not in question. Absolutely not.
And it's not the only time he's been heroic.
Okay, go on. Please elaborate on some of the others. since this is a tribute and we
yeah.
should paint him in the most positive light possible.
Shad Gaspard basically managed to stop a petrol station robbery.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing about this briefly at the time. I think did we discuss it, or was it before?
We may have I'm not sure if we have discussed it, but we'll just reiterate it again. Basically, Shad Gaspard basically managed to catch the gentleman off guard and restrain him until police arrived.
Yes, which is frankly fantastic, and needless violence such as robbing somewhere. You always think, however desperate things get, you've got a valid reason, but nah, Shad Gaspard was the hero there because there's never a justified reason for that sort of thing, and, well, there isn't really a safe reason for potentially, the damage that it could cause if your intervention goes wrong. But he didn't think of that. He just thought about stopping it from happening and saving everyone involved, so that makes him a stand-up human being. There's no two ways about it.
Yes. Aside from that, after a lot of Shad's family and friends decided to get on a Kickstarter fund, I believe it was.
Yes.
And shockingly recently, the fund was basically in regards to help raise enough money for his son to go on to further his education, potentially go on to college and everything in America, which is like university over here in the UK.
Yep.
And I believe I think it was $100,000 was required. $100,000
was raised, I'm sure, in next to no time by
believe me,
people. Outpouring of grief was palpable, and so it just goes to show that, Shad Gaspard wasn't the only good soul around, because, yeah, when faced with tragedy, people can still act in a breathtakingly kind way, as everyone who donated shows.
No, definitely. And on top of that, not only was it a hit, I believe the target was 100,000. I'm looking at it now. It's currently at $133,241.
And that's after 2-3 days.
I'm not sure when it started. I'm just looking at it
briefly. But that is, as I say, that is a resounding validation of humanity as a whole, rallying around a family who've suffered from the worst tragedy possible.
It's just massively unfortunate what has happened.
Yes, definitely.
However, there is some good news.
Yep.
In regards, before we continue on, and I'm just trying to find the extra bit. There was an extra note that might have been provided. There was a donation of 40,000 from one donator.
Good Lord. The fact that someone not only can afford to do that, but has also gone ahead and done it, that is fantastic.
There is speculation of who it could be.
Is it
the only
a
connection,
former WWE superstar?
He pops in now and again.
I see.
They put it under the name of CTCRIP.
Right.
And a lot of people have been wondering who it was. And the person, and the rumour is that it's John Cena.
Well, if that is the case,
in case if anybody wants to know, it's not been verified,
No.
But CTC, or as it was also known as, was Crime Time C Nation.
Yes, a brief alliance between the two.
Which was against JBL, and if you remember,
Yes.
when they vandalised his limousine, CTC was placed on it.
As we say, that is entirely unverified, but raises John Cena about 100 notches in everyone's estimation, if it is true.
Potentially. The scary thing about it is that is a massive amount of money.
Yes.
And regardless of it, if it is Cena or whoever it is, massive appreciation and thank you for that.
Absolutely.
And generally, it's just heartwarming to hear stuff like that. It really is.
Yes.
On top of that, what makes it even more unfortunate is, did you know that Shad Gaspard didn't just wrestle?
I knew that he was also an actor, but I get the sense that's not the answer you're going for here.
That was half of what I was going to state.
Okay, so as well as a wrestler and an actor, he was also...
He was also the motion caption for a game.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure that everyone's heard of it.
I'm guessing it's quite a big seller.
Yeah. I wonder if anybody's heard of Kratos?
I'd say quite a few people.
Part of the God of War series?
Yes. And so they used him as the motion capture, did they?
He was the motion capture that was provided in 2018 for the most recent version.
Wonderful. So his work lives on in more than just his wrestling, which is still out there on video. I was going to say on the WWE Network, but it will be more than just that, of course.
And aside from that, he was a bodyguard.
Yes.
He was a bodyguard.
Basically, he appears to have been a human being without refute. Absolutely top draw person and all round genuinely nice guy. So
yeah,
the fact that such tragedy has befallen him is actually made worse by that.
It is heartbreaking, but overall he was a well-respected guy, all round gentleman, and it's just unfortunate circumstances that has happened. However, I'm just going to state, wow, you wouldn't believe what film he was in.
I did actually do some research before the episode, and I did know, but I've lost it. It's fallen off the tip of my tongue. Do tell me.
It wasn't actually in the role as in like a main character. He actually did the stunts for them.
Oh, cool.
Birds of Prey?
Is that the Marvel
DC
film? Excuse me, pardon my French. The DC film, is Harley Quinn one of the characters in that? Yes.
Yes. Correct.
Cool, that's quite impressive. So he was obviously...
Yeah, he was quite known. He was in Get Hard, Brothers, I'm looking up, Think Like a Man 2. He'd done a few TV shows as well. And, I believe he did motion capture. The God of War wasn't the only motion capture he did. In 2016, he was in Batman The Enemy Within, doing motion capture stunts for Bane.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Chances are that the most unfortunate thing in this whole little bit is that chances are, without his tragic passing far too young, the vast majority of people would probably never have realised that.
correct. Now, I'll just go down the nicknames he's potentially gone through. He had, Shad Gaspard. He wrestled as Shad Gaspard, just Shad, and been known as Da Beast.
Because if you've ever actually seen him, you'll fully understand that nickname.
Pretty much 6'7".
6'7", about 280, I think.
Close, 285 pounds.
Huge guy, solid muscle.
He may have been solid muscle, but a heart.
Well, no, I was going to say I lie. 50% solid muscle, 50% heart, by the sounds of it.
Oh, definitely. I'd say he was more known for his heart.
Absolutely.
If anything, and generally an all-round amazing guy.
Yeah. So, sad tragic way. So, with that said, that was not the only tragic news that was received this week.
No.
We were bracing ourselves to do an entire tribute show to Shad Gaspard, as we have done, when another tragic loss occurred. And this one is, I don't want to say even sadder, but the person in question died even younger, so the temptation to say that is quite strong. I don't want to imply that anyone's life is even more tragic or sad because it's lost early than any other, but you know what I'm saying.
It is a tragic because of the circumstances it's in regards to around.
Yes.
Which is for a famous Japanese female professional wrestler by the name of Hana Kimura.
Yeah.
Who wrestled for multiple promotions, which were
including. Sorry, go on.
The Ring Stardom, and has been on ROH, and I believe Wrestle One. And
obviously, we'll never know now, but the rumours was on WWE's radar.
Potentially, and she is not only that, she is also a second generation professional wrestler.
Yes.
And she is the daughter of former professional wrestler, and I apologise in advance for the mispronunciation. I believe the name is Kyoko Kimura.
I'm just trying to find it written down so that I can...
Which is spelled Kyoko.
I believe the closest Japanese pronunciation is Kyoko, but I'm not 100% sure.
So, she is a second generation, and Hana Kimura was also a reality television star on the Netflix series, which was known as Terrace House Tokyo 2019 to 2020.
Yes, which was a sort of... Well, it was a variation on the Big Brother theme. People live in a house, and it was all about their lives, which worked on television.
3 guys and three girls?
Yes, and I think the general idea was to try and see if they paired themselves up amongst each other.
Potentially.
But...
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, the series was currently still being recorded and being released weekly.
Yeah, highly unlikely, I would say, that the remainder of the unaired footage will now be shown. Or if it is, I'm guessing it's going to be prefixed with a hefty tribute. And possibly a similar kind of thing to what we said earlier in the show, with links to places where you can get help if you feel you need it. Because that would seem to me to be the least they could do.
Definitely. Me personally, I think it's going to be very, very hard pressed for them to even continue on.
Yeah, if it was me, I would just shelve the whole lot that hasn't been broadcast yet, out of respect. Yes. But again, I don't work for Netflix or Fuji Television, so I can't speak for them, and I'm not trying to. Just want to make that clear.
Now, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Hana had also been capable of wrestling at Wrestle Kingdom 14
Yes,
as well. So quite a massive honour there. Now,
absolutely.
in case anybody's wondering why I've referenced that, is because it's just unfortunate what's basically happened, because something that could have potentially happened on the show could have actually brought this up.
Yes. Just before you delve into that, there was a tweet from a source that you perhaps wouldn't expect.
Go on.
Mick Foley, no less.
Yeah.
Put out a tweet in the aftermath of the event. Hana Kimura was 22. Let that sink in. 22. She had a whole life in front of her. Online bullying should not be part of life. It damn sure should not be part of death. She was 22.
Yeah.
To suffer that level of abuse, to think that that was the only answer at the age of 22, it actually makes you want to question the sanity of every single one of the people who, whether they like it or not, were indirectly responsible, who sent any form of abuse, and indeed anyone who sends any form of abuse to anyone over the internet because they think it's anonymous and they can, or it doesn't affect people, because frankly it does. And I don't want to put too blunt a point on this, but you're an absolute arsehole if you do it, because, you know, grow a pair, take a look at yourself and focus on fixing your own problems instead of projecting onto someone else, because more often than not something like this is the result. And how do you feel now? Because the answer to that should be hollow, frankly, because you're a disgrace.
And that is from McFoley.
Yeah, and that is my more heartfelt than I expected reaction to that tweet as well. But yeah. I stand by every word of it.
Now, let me just add on additionally onto this, because I believe that one part of it didn't clearly specify. Let us just state for the record, it wasn't any physical abuse as in person.
It wasn't physical bullying or
as in
you know,
a member of on the Terry show. What it basically, I'll just explain the build up. What that happened.
Yeah.
She joined the Terry's house in September 2019, which, you know, in early July, she was involved with an incident, I believe, with a fellow housemate, which was with Kai Edward Kabayashi.
Okay.
I apologise on the pronunciations. And it was regarding her Wrestle Kingdom 14 ring attire.
Okay.
He was washing his clothes while her outfit was also in the washer. He then threw it in the dryer, ruining her wrestling attire.
Just a kind of mindless, only thinking about themselves kind of thing that, well, he genuinely might not have known, but it was one of those things that, looking back on it, you can apportion all kinds of blame, but nothing may have been meant by it, but still.
However, Kimura was visibly upset, knocking his hat off his head, leading to a verbal conflict. Now, that was in January. It aired in March. The actions of it drew much criticism, involved name-calling, and a...
Hang on. Let me just get this straight, just in case anyone at home is in the same boat as me. Somebody, whether knowingly or otherwise, and we genuinely don't know, it could have been a mistake, did something which ruined the girl's wrestling gear.
No, but the
and
problem
her
is
reaction of getting angry about that drew criticism from people. I don't get that. I really don't.
I think the reason why it drew criticism is because it's something that was treasured to her, but at the same time, if he didn't know it was in there or didn't know how to do it and thought he'd be doing, he thought he might have been thinking he was doing something right, if you get what I'm saying. He might have been
He
doing
might,
her.
yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. He might not have known that the action was actually that his actions of putting it in there was going to ruin it. Like I said, it might have been an innocent mistake, but
At the same time,
that doesn't excuse the fact he did it, and it was something that had sentimental meaning and value to her. So she had every right to get upset about it.
It's hard, but at the same time, it's a hard situation because some people could say it's a bit ungrateful because he tried to do something nice, but it didn't come out right. You know, but you know, I think it might have resolved itself if people continue to watch. Potentially, probably down the road, they might have resolved it eventually.
Well, yeah, possibly.
Hopefully.
Well, we can only say hopefully now, unfortunately, but yeah.
In regards to it, and when it aired in March, basically it drew a lot of criticism from many people. Now, that's fine if you've got criticism.
Yeah, that's fine. You're allowed to not blindly
an
like everything and have an opinion on things. It's when you decide to act on it in a way that benefits nobody but your own sense of self-worth that it becomes a problem.
Correct. Now, I know some name calling can be childish and everything, but at the same time...
Yeah, but what every single individual person who may have done it has got to think is, yes, you on your own probably weren't responsible. It was probably the collective tidal wave of all of it. But that doesn't justify you doing it.
But at the same time, right, let me just get this... I've got something to get off my chest first.
Okay, that's
fine. The name
fine.
calling and abuse from social media users, which ended up sending her into a massive depression.
Understandable. And if you bear in mind that she's a famous face, and so therefore the amplification of the action meant that, you know, way more of that kind of people would have seen it than if it had just been an altercation between two people that wasn't televised. So that made it probably 1,000 times worse.
Yeah. What didn't exactly help is what it led to, past just depression.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she ended up passing away on yesterday, on the 23rd.
Yes.
And previously, she basically put out certain posts that were...
tragic, I think, is the kindest understatement we can use.
And let us just state, if you do look these up for yourself,
do it at your own, like, with discretion, and be aware that they, well, if you have a heart, they will be deeply upsetting. So take that as a caution before you even bother, if you decide you want to.
I will state it does relate in regards to self-harm and other stuff, and I've actually seen at least one of the messages she put out, and believe me when I say this, it is heartbreaking. It
is devastating,
massively devastating. And her last Instagram stories and photo, I believe, was posted with her cat, and a caption in Japanese that was translated, I believe it was, "Goodbye, I love you, have fun, live a long time, I'm sorry." And take into account, that is the one I've been able to say on the air without breaking.
Yeah, there were more than just that message, and frankly, if you choose to look into them, you do so at your own discretion, and we can't warn you strongly enough. If you're in any way of a nervous disposition, it's probably better that you don't. But the fact that we can't even go into them on air should give you an idea of how heartrending and appalling they are.
Yeah, even me just reading that out is just...
Yeah.
Now,
again, it's a case of anyone who has even contributed one message to that feeling that has made another human being genuinely think that they can't continue
now
is Oh, I don't have the words.
Basically, I believe there was a post that I saw on Twitter that basically said, "Don't send out hate. Do better. Do better.
Yes.
Send out love. Be nice. If you've got nothing, if you've only
It's
got bad
a
to
modern
say,
take, on the old thing. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything. That can't be repeated often enough or strongly enough at the moment,
and
especially in this culture of the internet and anonymous accounts on websites where people think they can just fire these things off and it doesn't matter because it's just the internet or whatever. You couldn't be more wrong.
I'm now going to state something now that's probably going to surprise a lot of people right now.
Me included, I'm probably quite sure, because you've kind of surprised me with this and I wasn't expecting it. So, okay, I'm just going to let you say it.
Basically, I believe a few weeks ago, we had a topic on the Burning Truth, which was in regards to Vince Russo. Does he deserve the hate?
Yes.
That he gets. Now,
and
wait. Let me finish what I'm going to say. I'm just going to state, when we actually stated that episode, we were more discussing about the actions of what he's done.
Yeah.
Not as a person. And
no, we were simply discussing professional disbelief for what he's done, in the sense of, his his professional actions and the fact that they created, well, rubbish television, frankly. It wasn't a personal attack on him.
And in doing so, I feel as though that as a person, we don't hate him. Or I don't hate him personally. I don't
have absolutely
wish
nothing against him personally either. Neither of us, as you're about to say, I'm sure, wish harm on him or anyone he knows in any way. We never have, and we never will.
Correct. And as we stated in the time from time to time, we did joke about adding a certain slur in between his name, but it would be massively inappropriate to be doing that anytime soon. So at the moment in time, we are going to be following that message. If we haven't got anything nice to say, don't say it. And do better.
Essentially, we are admitting, we're not perfect. In light of this, I'm sure plenty of people feel the need to get in touch with Vince Russo, and whereas we simply can't state strongly enough, we were talking about his professional actions and we wish him no personal harm, and we were doing a broadcast where we were simply saying that he was, responsible for some questionable television.
Correct.
We are not one of the online trolls who have gone online and just randomly typed, a sentence or something of absolute bile, aimed it directly at him via his social media feed or something like that, and then got on with their life thinking nothing more of it. We wouldn't do that.
Basically,
we don't condone that in any way.
We just put an opinion out of it. If you want, and here's the thing, I'm going to state this now. If I recall, we even stated on the actual episode, if anybody disagreed with us,
yes,
tell us. How?
Absolutely.
I'll say this to you now. We would welcome him even on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
We would actually welcome him on the show so we can get his side of the story and take into account. I believe we even ended it on a positive note, because I believe that I even stated that Kurt Angle liked him.
Yeah, exactly. And he is not universally hated. We don't, for a start. But I think the point we're driving towards here is, in light of recent events and the tragic passing of Hana, we perhaps wouldn't have done that episode, or wouldn't have approached it in quite the same way. But needless to say, we didn't.
If we were going to do that, we could turn around and state that we're going to take it down. No, we're not going to take it down. I'm just going to state that now. And I feel as though some of the topics that we could have discussed could have been justified in the meaning, but we probably would have had a bit more of a disclaimer in regards to linked with this. But all I'm just going to state is that episode is not going to be edited. It's not going to be changed in any way. But if you
it's going to be left. But if you listen to it and in light of this episode, you think that maybe we went too far, then get in touch by all means and politely, this is the key here, let us know why. And because, of course, we value your opinion. And
we do. And
this works both ways. You know, if you think that maybe, especially in light of this week's episode, we crossed the line, then, yeah, let us know in the most
way you can. I'll do better. I'm going to do better now. Simply by saying, if you feel that we went too far on that episode, we apologise in advance now.
Yep.
If you go back to it, we apologise back previously. If on any future episodes you feel that we do go too far, we do apologise for it. But please let us know so then we can.
Yeah, let us know what it was that we say and in what way you feel that it is unacceptable. Because, yeah, we're here to try and entertain you, and sometimes we shoot our mouth off and we say things, you know, and the context is perhaps lost and the severity only becomes apparent later. But I think the crucial point here is we aren't doing this with the express intention of causing anyone any pain or suffering. In fact, quite the reverse. We're just trying to entertain you.
Correct. And on top of that, when we say from time to time, you know, we have certain people, you know, who are being foolish. I believe one of us, I believe it was myself, who's used the saying, "Don't be stupid, stupid." That doesn't just. We're not just when we say that. We don't mean in the sense of just we're not saying a stupid individual. We also mean that towards ourselves. So if we are being stupid, tell us. Don't be stupid, stupid. Tell us directly. We're not above being called out on any mistakes that we make.
If we are being stupid, if we're being hypocritical, yeah, we'll own up to it. We're only human. We do make mistakes. But yeah, it comes back to the point. We've probably been guilty of it in the past, but we have never knowingly or deliberately set out to sabotage anyone's life, cause anyone any harm, or do anything other than put out our opinions, which, if hindsight shows are wrong, as opinions can be as often as they're right, let us know, because that's what you're here for. You are basically there to, well, you know, be the police, as it were, to let us know if we've gone too far. So if you do it, just remember, though, we're talking about sensitivity in light of tragedy here, so don't maybe sink to the kind of short, sharp language that maybe we've been guilty of in the past. I know it's like saying we've done something bad, but tell us in the nicest possible way. But yeah, don't add to the problem by shouting at us, is what I'm saying. No. Tell us constructively.
No, basically, if we are being assholes, tell us we're being assholes.
Yeah.
Just say it. But don't do it in a vindictive way.
Yeah.
Is what my colleague is trying to say. Okay, if we are being assholes, call us. Say, you're being an arsehole. Here's why. Move on. And we will hopefully, do better.
We can only try.
So, I know this has been a bit long. It's gone on a little bit longer than we anticipated, I believe.
Yes. We were literally anticipating maybe a quick 10-minute discussion and then to leave you to get on with your morning and then the rest of your day. But correct. I think we should wrap things up now. Safe in the knowledge that...
Before we get to that, I just wanted to put out this message. If the Burning Truth does not condone bullying as such, I'm just going to be pointing out the message of, if you have got something, some frustration, some hatred towards somebody, find an alternative method instead of venting your frustration on social media. Yes, I know from time to time this could be controversial for us, especially with us being on a broadcast and we've been very vocal with an opinion. Notice that we on each episode we do state it is just an opinion, and other people are entitled to opinions. That's fine. If you disagree with us, tell us. But at the same time, we're not stating as fact. So if we do dislike somebody, that isn't basically stating that everybody hates them. Basically,
or that everybody should. That's
correct.
a crucial point to make there.
Correct. You just beat me to it on that one. And on top of that, basically, if we do see bullying and we don't like it, we are going to call it out.
Yes, so it's only fair that if that's what you think we're doing, you call us out as well, because unlike in the cases of most bullies that I've ever come across, if we give it out, we've got to be prepared to take it as well. So if we cross a line just as much as if anyone else does, you let us know as quickly as we'll let you know.
Correct. And if at any point we feel that we've gone too far, we will make a statement and state that we went too far. We will call ourselves out. We're not perfect. We're not God. We're not God's being. We're not supreme beings or anything. We're human. But let's just state this going forward. Because of this, aside from the bullying on top of that, we think that with the bullying, it may not be helping towards mental health. So this episode is mostly dedicated to mental health all round. And be it either if you've lost somebody, that will affect your mental health as well. So mental health can be involved on both families as such. So with that, we give our condolences to the friends, to the families, the friends, colleagues of Shad Gaspard and Hana Kimura, and just state we're not saying that we understand. So what I'm just going to state.
We're not saying in any certain terms we understand, but we definitely sympathise.
We definitely sympathise, and I would advise anybody who may know them personally, do give a bit of leeway and a bit of space at this time. And on top of that, mental health is massively important, because if you are struggling, don't just suffer in silence. Please.
Absolutely not. As we said, there is mine, there is the Samaritans, there are many other. Is it changes?
Changes for health and well-being.
And indeed many other ways in which, if you are suffering, you can reach out, and there are people who can help.
And we're going to go into plug web. It's going to sound like we are mentioning the charities again. Because guess what?
Frankly, it's important.
It is.
It needs to be stated. You are never alone. However much you may feel the opposite, you're not.
Correct. And on top of that, we're not going to do our usual spiel of plugs as much. We're just going to be focusing on some of the charitable organisations, be it Changes for Health and Wellbeing, Changes Recovery Radio, Mind, Messy for Mine, Donna Louise, Hospice Cares for Children and Young People, and Cancer Research UK. And as we've already mentioned, there's the Samaritans in the UK.
Yeah.
And there is potentially suicide hotlines in your country. If there is, we do advise you to do call them out if you do feel that you need them. But at the same time, if you feel that you need help, don't be afraid to ask for help. It isn't a weakness at all.
No.
On top of that, we're also going to recommend the lighter side of wrestling.
Because even in these dark times, it's important to remember laughing is important. You may not feel like it right now, but the mood will lighten. And when it does, it's important to remember there's light in the world as well as dark.
Correct. And on top of that, so I'm going to recommend to you Botchamania, which is You're Welcome Matthew, and of course Wrestle Crap.
You're welcome, RD.
And of course, OSW Review Lads. You're welcome, OSW Review Lads, and of course Matthew again, who does actually do special.
He does appear from time to time.
And that is going to be it, other than mentioning the Burning Truth website, which is www.theburningtruthuk.com. I'll just state the following, that any external links that are on the links page, we cannot be held responsible for, because we do not have control over them. You can find us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter,
Instagram,
YouTube, and we have got potentially past episodes of The Burning Truth either on the website, on Spreaker, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Deezer, and iTunes, and other sources.
as well as many other sources.
Correct.
Basically, if you can think of a place where you can get podcasts, look us up and we might be there. And if there is one that has a wide reach and we're not on there, let us know and we might try and get ourselves on there in the near future.
Correct. And aside from that, I'm just going to do our usual mental health, which is, as we've already stated, when we say look at, be well, be safe, we don't just mean it physically, we mean it mentally. It is okay to be not okay. Asking for weakness isn't help. And you could end up by asking for help, you can end up finding out you're more loved or more cared for than you ever even know. And I still think to this day, the quote from Tom Campbell on an episode of Cultaholic still stands today.
Absolutely.
Which is never compare your behind the scenes to other people's greatest hits. And
couldn't put it better myself.
Going to say, if you've got nothing nice to say at the moment, especially on social media, don't say it at all.
Don't say anything. Absolutely.
If you have got some frustration, vent it out in a different way.
Vent it in a constructive way. Find some way that doesn't hurt anyone else.
Or if you feel that you need to spew some venom, here's a tip for you. If you've got a recording device, and this is a general tool that can actually help out get vented frustration, but at the same time also get you understand potentially what you are spewing, what you're stating out.
If you have something that will record, and in this day and age, the age of mobile phones and laptops and personal and tablets and everything, pretty much everybody does.
Yep.
Use it.
Correct.
Vent to yourself.
Correct. The best way to do that is literally record your voice, or even if you do it as a video, vent your frustrations into it. And this is only for yourself. Just basically whatever's been bugging you all day, whatever's upset you, throw it in there.
Treat it as though you were a blogger and it is your daily YouTube blog or whatever, and
but don't
pour all your that's what I was going to say. Pour all your emotions, however negative they may be, into it. The only difference being it's only for your personal consumption. It is simply so that you have vented your frustration and you don't have to point it at anybody.
And a lot of people are saying, but then what do we do with the recording?
Keep it and watch it the next time you feel down.
Give it a week.
Use it as a motivation next time you feel like that. Or next time you think about... Use it as a motivation next time you think about maybe jumping on the internet and posting something anonymous and vile.
No, that's not the tip for today.
Is it not?
The tip. No. The tip is, give it a week and go back to the recording. Play it, but then if necessary, pause in between your vents, in your frustrations, and do this. When you come to the end of one vent, pause it, and then respond as if you're the other person.
Whoever it may be that
aimed at.
You are.
As in, it doesn't have to be aimed at anybody. You be someone who's listening into that conversation. It may sound like, hang on, that sounds completely insane. I'm arguing with myself.
You may well think that, but there's only two things we can say. One, it's not. It's far better you do it this way than you go online and post some abuse, which may lead to some form of tragedy like we've discussed this week. Mm-hmm. And two, it's actually quite good for you to get to know yourself better and to understand why you think these things.
Exactly, because here's the scary thing about it is what you could have been feeling in that time may not be the exact same feeling that you've got a week later. So you'll have a different perspective. So then
you may listen back and be horrified by your own words.
it's not. I'm not saying you'll be horrified by your own words.
I'm saying you may, but yeah.
It's not horrified by your own words. You'll hear what you've said. You'll then respond to what you may actually have an answer for it a week later, which you're giving to yourself and reiterating it to yourself, which is also, it's almost like a bit of a positive feedback from yourself. You're basically stating to yourself, right, okay, I had this issue, but it was because of this. I had this frustration because of that. And you've worked around it, and it's showing you how, it's showing you at different stages of where you were to where you are. And then, if you feel that you've got them all done and answered, you can delete it. And it goes away.
And it's gone forever, and it has helped you, but it has affected no one else, which is the perfect way to deal with these things.
Basically, if it doesn't help, and it goes against you, then I would advise seeking help.
Yeah, absolutely. From any of the sources we've mentioned, or indeed any of the other ones that may be out there that we haven't mentioned, because we are aware it was not an exhaustive list.
No, correct. And on top of that, it just, for me personally, you don't have to be a stranger as such, but how? If it comes down to it and you are struggling, the inbox for the Burning Truth is always open. Send us over and we'll hopefully try to respond and help out in any way we can. If we can't, we'll try to point you into a direction of where we...
an organisation or a person who can,
But don't suffer in silence. And on top of that, when I say this, be well, not just physically, but mentally as well. And genuinely, we mean this from the bottom of our hearts. You're all absolutely amazing people. We appreciate you for listening to this episode as such. And yes, we've waffled on quite more than enough.
But I would just like to say as well, Mattman says be well, but, it's okay occasionally if you're not well.
Correct.
As well. And thanks for listening to us. But as he also says, I think we've waffled on quite enough. So I think that's where we'll leave it for this week.
So with that, I will just add on right now that there was a pay-per-view of AEW. None of us have even watched it. We most likely probably do a post-review probably after we've watched it, if we do get a chance to watch it.
Yeah.
But I know there are certain other events coming up soon for WWE.
Yeah.
And we'll be probably discussing them probably
a little bit closer to the time.
But going forward, listen, that's it for this week. So with that, stay well, stay safe, and don't be afraid to send out a message to any loved ones or anybody you haven't spoken to in a while. And yes, we do say check out your local promotions, especially on their social media. But as we said, if you've got nothing good to say at the moment in time, we advise you to avoid, do better.
Keep it to yourself. Do better. Be more kind.
Let's be kind. And, basically, let's, as much as I know certain people may hate this old Cena saying, rise above the hate.
Fantastic. And I think that's a perfect way to sign out for the week.
So with that, I've been Matt Burns.
I've been John Law.
He's been John
Law.
JB. Or JB. And with that is this week's episode of The Burning Truth. Thank you very much for listening in. We appreciate it. And until then, we'll catch you on next week's episode. We're not going to say what the topic, if we're going to be... we might be pushing that topic that we originally discussed on to next week's episode. But we're not
Something else might come up. We just don't know yet, basically.
So with that, stay well, stay safe, and until then, we'll catch you later.
Goodbye for now.